Welcome, everyone, to Congregation L'Dor Va-Dor's monthly program, Parson to Parson, with our co-hosts, Rabbi Barry Silver of L'Dor Va-Dor and Pastor Fritz Aufdencamp. We are just thrilled to have you both on this Monday, November 21st. This is Thanksgiving week, and we are indebted to you guys. We are very grateful for your time and your conversation, your discussion, and your relevant point of view. So thank you, and take it away, gentlemen.
Well, thanks a lot, Sharon, for making this possible and for being the great support of Congregation L'Dor Va-Dor, and we really appreciate that. On this Thanksgiving week, as we approach Thanksgiving, it would be a good idea for us, in the midst of all the bad news we keep hearing about, to try to remember what good things are happening and good news. So Pastor Aufdencamp said, let's talk about all the good things happening in the country. So I thought that would be good. I think it would require a moment of silence to cover all the good things that are happening. So why don't we have a moment of silence to talk about the good things, and then we can talk about everything else. No, I'm just kidding. Fritz, I know that you have plenty of good things that you'd like to share with us that are going on in America, so maybe you can get the ball rolling. What's some good news you can share?
Well, I wanted to go away for 2 or 3 days. I really did. I wanted to be away from this election and not experience what was happening, but it happened. And the very next day, I sent an email to all my Republican family members and thanked them for Republicans in Pennsylvania, Ohio, across the country, for helping us keep our democracy. I thought that was something to be thankful for.
How was that received? About as well as your other emails about
I
Christianity?
tell you, no one even responded. I couldn't believe it.
Well, you know what they say, silence is consent.
Yes,
I guess they're all agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah, you taught me that. I appreciate that.
Well, it does in legal circles, but I don't know if you were sending out a legal message or not.
No, yeah.
Yes, we do. I guess we should be grateful for the fact that our country remained a democracy and that cooler heads prevailed, and that things seems to be going in a good direction. And but in actuality, in the United States, because we are a democracy, the good news is that we all have the potential within our hands to create any type of future that we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, L'Dor Va-Dor, we say that our goal is to connect with the past, to better understand the present, so that we can help shape a better tomorrow. So I think with that in mind, maybe we could try to figure out where we are today and how we could shape a better tomorrow. It seems to me that we've seen a lot of excesses in the political realm and the religious realm, basically because people are taking an approach it's not really based on reason or rational thought, and it seems to be based on faith, blind faith in an individual, blind faith in a doctrine or a dogma. But imagine if we approach things rationally. Imagine what we could do in this country, in this world. We could overcome so many of our problems. We could all work together to tackle climate change. We could work together to try to create a better tomorrow for people. And I performed a wedding ceremony the other night, and it was just so heartwarming. The groom is a basketball player, and his father coached him. And together they formed an organization called New Heights. And they take inner city youth, mostly minority youth, and they offer them a college graduation, and they'll pay for their education as long as they keep up their grades. And they're just so dedicated and such good people. And the groom was marrying someone who was just such a wonderful person, and the families joined together. And it was really beautiful to see really good people with great values forming this bond, this relationship. And I was really excited. I told them to see, now that they're joining forces, what they could accomplish in the future. There's just so many good things going on around us that we lose sight of.
You mentioned a book to me called Thank God for Evolution.
Yeah.
And I downloaded it, and I was sharing this with a friend of mine at a breakfast the other morning. He already knew about this book.
Really?
I've been kind of left out of this thing, but the
Not
whole
quite as obscure as I thought. good.
But I'm looking forward to it because I think it's a positive approach to the way the arc of justice moves so slowly, but it does move forward.
It is a great book to figure out how could Christianity evolve so that it has a rational approach and
Yes.
uses Christian symbols and Christian ideals to
Mhm.
make the world better. But it definitely veers away from the fundamentalist literal approach. In my view, it doesn't successfully divorce itself as fully as it should from the literal point of view, and it tries to find a way of I guess threading the needle so that it's kind of literal, kind of not literal. It talks about night language and day language. I don't put it in those terms. I just say true and false. But the book is it's a great book. It's called, somebody's asking, it's called Thank God for Evolution. It was written by Dowd, D-O-W-D. I believe it's Michael Dowd. And it is a very clever book. It's got a lot of insights, a lot of wisdom, and it shows how if you don't take Christianity literally, you can use a lot of its teachings to improve your life in the world. And basically, I think, and Fritz, I'd like to hear your opinion on this too, but I think when Christianity follows the life of Jesus and emulates the life of Jesus, they start doing pretty good. When they focus on his death, that's when bad things happen. That's when it gets tied in with mythology and heaven and hell. But the life of Jesus is where the Christians, if they focus their attention there, it could really be a positive influence in the world.
Yeah, once he died and years went by, things changed drastically, which really corrupted Christianity. But if they would get back to the life of this person, this 33-year-old person, a young guy, and the principles that he preached, we would be much better off. I have an older brother who always criticizes me because I now trying to use more rational thought and logic and thinking. And
that's terrible. That's very subversive.
Terrible. And he was criticizing my use of logic when it came to religion. And I said, well, for someone who believes that someone had to be murdered for Fritz's sins, and for someone who believes that God impregnated a teenager, I will go with my logic, really. But for some people, mythology seems logical to them for some reason. I don't know why that is.
And not necessarily logical. It just seems more desirable to believe things that make them feel good than to believe things that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ascribe to a supernatural, all-knowing being, then you can just say, well, he knows more than we do, and his logic is more than ours. Mm-hmm. And in Christian scripture, they have quite a few passages that say that the wise people of this world are as fools in the next world. And compared to God's wisdom, earth's wisdom is very superficial. And so they're kind of indoctrinating people not to believe the wisdom of this world, subvert your rational mind, and believe things that are irrational. And I believe it was Jefferson who said, the path to faith is to close the eye to reason. So if you're trying to get someone to believe things that are irrational, then you convince them not to accept rational thought.
Yeah, you talked about helping people to feel better. Well, I feel better when everybody's my brother and sister. I don't feel better when I've got enemies over there just because they think differently. So, I don't get this. You're right, though. I guess it does make them feel special. Makes them feel special.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this Friday night, we're going to have an interfaith Thanksgiving Shabbat celebration in which we talk about what you're saying, Chris, that we could feel really good thinking that, we're all one family, all people living in peace, all different religions joining together in harmony. That's a good feeling. We should take a lot of comfort in that type of thought rather than thinking I'm better than you are. Emily, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yep. I've talked about this briefly with Fritz. My feeling is that religions that focus on a death theme, whether it be death of Christ or death of the pharaohs or death of the Vikings, those religions, first of all, disappear, with the exception of Christianity. But secondly, they're not focusing on what religion should be, which is maximizing your potential to do good in the world. Focusing on death is not productive.
Right. But the reason why it's done is because many people have a fear of death. So if you can help them through that and conquer that fear by giving them falsehoods and nonsense and make believe, then you can control them. Because then they think, oh, I'm no longer afraid of death as long as I believe this guy. And then that's how they get control based on the fear of death.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of religions aren't really interested in helping people to improve. They're interested in amassing power for themselves and money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The focus in seminary was always on, this is only a temporary existence. This is not our real home. Our real home is elsewhere. And that is so far from the point.
Well, it's also very, very harmful. You know, it's like if you're on a cruise and you're visiting a place, you're not going to take good care of that place. You might throw your trash around and you're not going to be interested in how it is. But if you have a permanent home, you're going to take care of that home.
Take care of it.
You're going to watch out. So when you think, well, this is just a way station, we're really going to a better place, then we tend not to care for our earth, tend not to take our lives seriously. And it's a very destructive type of belief. It sounds like it's good. Sounds like it's going to make you happy, but in reality, it's a cult of death, and it's not very helpful.
Yep.
Have we disturbed Stan yet?
I don't know. So far, either he doesn't disagree with anything we're saying, or he's just not inclined to cause any arguments. Stan, where do you come down on all this?
Well, first I'm listening, and then I have to figure it out what matters to me and what doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm not so hung up on what took place 2,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago. What I'm interested in what's going on today in the modern world and how can we adapt to it or live with it.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Stan. I mean, all of this, like you say, all of this is irrelevant and a waste of our time if it doesn't help us to deal with today. That's why I say that our goal is to connect with the past, to better understand the present, so we can help shape a better tomorrow. And I just wrote an article, and I'm curious to see what kind of reaction it gets.
I read it.
But it talks about deja vu in the Republican Party because they flirted with fascism under a guy named Joe McCarthy. Now they're flirting with fascism again, a guy named Kevin McCarthy, who's beholden to another wannabe fascist. And the old fascist McCarthy destroyed the Republican Party. It took them years to recover, and they don't seem to have learned too much from it. And now they're flirting with another fascist, and they seem to be moving away from him now, not because they disagree with his policies, but because he seems not to be a winner anymore. And that's a worse sin than an insurrection or not paying taxes or being a misogynist or stoking anti-Semitism. Worse than all those things is being a loser and losing power for their party. So I just noticed this similarity in the McCarthy bookends, and I'm wondering if maybe they'll learn a lesson and not hang out with fascists or wannabe fascists.
How unlike Trump is our governor?
Our governor is far more intelligent, far more sophisticated, far more charming, far more socially acceptable than Trump. Trump was like a bull in a china shop, and he was giving us a lot of bull and stirring up trouble with China. But DeSantis, he comes across very, very smooth. He says a lot of the things he does and says are equally as dangerous, but he's better at it.
He's much better at it. Yes.
Yeah, he's much better. But I don't think he's the same type of megalomaniac as
No, not
Trump.
at all. Not at all.
Trump is, I think he's like a psychopath, and DeSantis is just kind of like your run-of-the-mill politician, but he's very good. He's very smooth. He's very good. I don't mean his policies are good. I mean as a politician,
Mhm.
he's very good.
Gee, I don't. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Stanley.
I was going to say, I mean, DeSantis in your mind might be run of the mill, but he just took the Democrat candidate and obliterated him by 20 points, whether you like it or not. I mean, he killed a guy.
Well, let me
Now,
clarify.
Chris,
Let me clarify. When I said run of the mill, I said he's a very good politician. He's very smooth. He's very good. He's good at, when I said run of the mill, what I meant was that on a psychological scale, as far as somebody who's like totally a psychotic or somebody who's normal, he's pretty run of the mill as far as psychology goes. He's a normal type of thinking person. He's not a psychopath. He's a normal guy. I mean, a lot of politicians are very they're kind of crazy type people, but he's on the psychological scale, he's pretty normal. But I agree with you, Stanley. I think he's, like I say, he's excellent as a politician. He's very smooth and he's very good. And yeah, he destroyed Chris, but I think he destroyed him because he's the anti-Christ. I mean, he's like representing all these all these values that are really antithetical to religion, but are very popular these days. Go ahead, Emily.
I said I had lunch today with our city manager and the city council people. And the feeling about Chris is, educated, Harvard, Yale, military person. He wouldn't, even though you disagree with everything he says, he would not embarrass you on the world stage. His ideals might, but he might. I want to throw something out.
You mean DeSantis? You mean DeSantis?
Yes, I mean DeSantis. Yeah, I read
Right.
DeSantis. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there should be an upper age limit to run for president, and it should be over 80. It's not unconstitutional because there is a lower age limit. You can't run for president until you're 35. I'm pretty sharp at 81, but I'm not as sharp as I was at 41. What do you think about having an upper age limit?
I oppose it. I oppose it.
I'm 81 also.
Come on.
I don't. I think it's a good idea.
I think Fritz would make an awesome president, and Emily, you would too. Your age is no impediment. The two of you are living examples of why we should not have an age limit. The two of you are every bit as sharp, as with it, as clear-headed as anyone. That's why I don't agree with the age limit. I don't disagree with maybe a mental competency test if you want, like if you get a driver's license, if you're a certain age, maybe get tested, but no. I mean, the two of you are positive proof that 81-year-olds can be very, very high functioning
And
people.
look what Biden has been able to do this past year, in spite of his age. He's done some miraculous things.
But is he going to be able to do it at 86? 2 years until the election and then 4 more years?
Yes, you're right.
I don't know about that.
Well, they're really good.
The other thing is parties, political parties. So much is wrong in this country. Canada has 6 weeks of campaigning and an amount that they can spend. This is absolutely crazy. There was a thing on public radio today about the amount of money that's even spent for school committee elections. You have to be the elite to run, as you know, Barry, or you have to get X amount of signatures. It's almost prohibitive for a run-of-the-mill normal person to run for office.
That's true. We no longer have elections, we have auctions. They go to the highest bidder.
Yes.
And the one who can sell their soul
Yeah.
to the most lobbyists is usually the one who wins. They get the most signs, the most TV commercials, the most ads, the most political influence. It's obscene.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. Obscene. When I was in office, I worked hard for campaign finance reform, and the Democratic Party did not agree with me. And so that was one of the reasons why they helped get me tossed out. But I agree with you 100%. It's obscene that you have to spend this money to get elected. It should go to the best qualified candidates, and corrupting it with money directly goes against that goal.
Yeah.
Harris, go ahead.
I want to go back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you great.
I want to go back to the Bible
Okay, good.
and congratulate Christianity. I watch Christian TV because they have Jews who converted to become whatever, and they have programs. Sid Roth is one of them, and he's a real big star, and Rabbi Schneider, and all these people bring in thousands of people, and they all become multimillionaires. It's a wonderful thing how to become rich in Christianity. Get a TV spot and you'll be rich.
That's
Right?
Yeah, I note a touch of sarcasm there. Is that right, Harris?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, good. Yes. Well, right, Fritz. Fritz can tell you what Jesus said about the wealthy. What's their fate?
Very difficult for the wealthy, very difficult for the wealthy.
Difficult. You have a gift of understatement. It is easier
Yes.
for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy person to get into heaven. If you want to be the follower of Jesus, he told someone who was asking him, first sell all you own and give the proceeds to the poor, and then just walk about as a beggar. And remember what happened, Fritz, to poor Ananias?
Yes.
He took up Jesus's suggestion. He sold his possessions, but he said, you know what? I need to keep a little bit, so I at least have a home. Boom, he was zapped. He was struck dead.
Yes.
And then his wife asked, what happened to him? And then she was struck dead because he retained one home. So these guys are just false prophets, hypocrites, or as Jesus referred to them as whited sepulchres, which is a really good image. A sepulcher is where you have a body inside. So it looks white and pure on the outside, and it's rotted like a corpse on the inside. But you're right, Fritz. They're very successful.
I watch a lot of Christian TV also, primarily because there's so many channels that have it on. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to another channel, and I go through these. I can't help but stop and just listen for a few seconds. And it's so hard. It's so hard to watch this stuff.
Well, it's all about raising money when you tune in.
It's all about money.
Yeah. It must be hard for you, Fritz, because
Because
that's
I'm
the
so 40 years
tradition that you emerged from. It's like with me, when I see people in the Jewish faith doing things that are embarrassing, other people, they're kind of embarrassed, but for me, it's a lot worse as a Jew. It's just so demoralizing. And if it's an individual, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. Somebody say, oh, it's a shanda for the Jews. I don't really care. But when it's Jewish movements that are going in a wrong direction, that's very damaging and harmful to the Jewish people.
Did somebody say that?
Things that Biden did was keep his religion, but also keep his morals. Even though he was sanctioned or whatever by the Catholic Church for his stand on women's right to choose, he's kept a good balance there. So I think, bottom line, he's a good man.
Yeah, Pelosi also. Pelosi did the same thing, where her religion helped make her a more moral person. Go ahead, Stanley.
Well, didn't somebody just say something about campaign financing?
Yeah.
And, it has changed when the Supreme Court, in the case Citizens United, ruled that there can't be government limits on campaign financing. That changed the whole picture. And it's a free-for-all.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know what the Supreme Court ruled was that money is a form of speech. And so you've heard the expression money talks. Well, that was actually made into law by the Supreme Court when they said money is a form of speech. And this is really shocking. So what that means is that the more money you have, the greater ability you have to speak in an election than others. And that's just flat out wrong. That's why when they took the limits off of that, it's a free for all, and they just exacerbated the problem.
Yeah,
There's a book called Oligarchy of the Wealthy, written by a man named Sanchez, and it talks about the Gores, the Bushes, the Kennedys, and all the wealthy people who were able to actually buy their electability. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and we should not think that this is confined to one party or another.
No.
Here in Palm Beach County, the Democratic Party gets lots of money from developers and the sugar industry. And then they support the development of the ag reserve and the paving over, the Browardization of Palm Beach County, and the destruction of the Everglades by the sugar industry. These funds are received by the Democrats, who say that they're pro-environment, and both of those positions are directly opposed to the environment. Now, the Republicans don't really try to hide the fact that they consider the environment to just be a commodity to exploit for money. So you kind of expect that. But the Democrats say one thing and they do another. And that's another reason why they went after me with a vengeance. And also, were quite hostile to candidates who came along over the years who might have been with the Sierra Club or Audubon, and they were real environmentalists. Democratic Party never got behind them. They wanted someone who would raise funds, not consciousness and not issues.
One of the biggest challenges as individuals is the role that money plays in our lives. And I'm taking right back down to myself and individuals, the struggle we have with what do we do with this wealth we have? And yeah, it's easy to throw stones, but I tend to look at myself and, Fritz, sometimes you're not making the best use of the material wealth that you have either.
That's a very, very good point. It's really easy to point fingers, and our whole society is shaped and molded by money, and it's a necessary evil. But without it, you really can't do much and advise your security and your health, and because everything is commoditized now. So, yeah, I agree with you, Fritz. As we talk about what's going on in the political world, it's very, very easy to see moral weakness. It's not so easy to see it in ourselves, and that's really what we all should be doing this. I appreciate you bringing that up. And as I mentioned, we are going to do an abbreviated version of Parson to Parson. So I think that's a really good note to end on. And I do want to say this. I just want to say that we have so much to be thankful for that we take for granted so much. There's a lot of things wrong in this country and in the world, but for those of us who are on this Zoom call, and those of us who live in Palm Beach County, and those of us who we hang out with, we're exceptionally fortunate to live to have food to eat and have a roof over our head, and not to have some foreign country trying to invade our soil, and to have health. And if we don't have our health, at least we have people who care about our health, and we have health care and access to it and water, and we're just exceptionally lucky, and we just don't realize it. We should just count our blessings every single day. And I'll also end with this Chinese proverb that my brother Noah told me today. He said, "When is the best time to plant a tree?" 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant the tree? Today. Today is the day. We can't go back. We can't go back and relive what we should have done. But we can today plant a tree. We can plant seeds. We can try to do what we can to make this world better. We can have an impact on our loved ones, our kids, our grandkids. And one of the best ways we can help them is to help them see how lucky they are and to appreciate every single day. Thanksgiving is the perfect time to do it.
I'd like to add one thought. Thanksgiving is very important for me because it reminds me of the only reason I tend to believe in a higher power is that I need some place to put my Thanksgiving when I when something special happens and I don't know where to go with this allness that I experience, I have this energy of the universe that I can say, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's not, it doesn't have to be directed towards a person-like being or an anthropomorphic type being, but
Yes.
there are forces in nature and in human nature in the world that you're right, that we are just so blessed to live in a world, a universe that's fashioned in such a way that we can even have one day of life.
Yes.
And that's in the book, Thank God for Evolution. And it's also a fundamental precept of cosmic Judaism, that we can be appreciative and we can give thanks without having to believe that our thanks is directed towards a person-like being. It's directed towards the universe and the cosmos, and there's so much to be grateful for.
Yes.
4 billion years of evolution led to the qualities that we have today, and that's quite remarkable. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Fritz. Best of luck and
Have a
good luck
safe
with what
trip.
you're dealing with. And thank you, everybody, for joining in the discussion. Take care.
Bye.